What's up, y'all? Welcome to Truth About Him podcast, number one podcast of men's health and wellness. I'm Anthony.
I'm Barron.
Welcome back to another episode of the show. You excited to be here?
Excited. I'm very excited. Very excited. Yeah.
Same here. So how was your week?
Therapeutic. I was able to. I'm just excited about where we're going. I mean, we keep saying it, but with every step is, I don't take any steps for granted. So I'm just super excited the things that we create, the things that we put together, and more importantly, the good reward that we hear that it helps people and it's helping. So that's been my week this week, just creating, writing, and then just sharing. So it's been a cool week, bro. Yeah. Setbacks here and there, but you got to keep pushing through. So I'm excited about this week.
Okay.
How's your week?
It's interesting. I had a little bit of anxiety coming to the show, this podcast today, because of the topic, the subject we're talking about.
Yeah.
Right. Just a little bit. But it's something that I think a lot of people go through, experience, and really just need help. Pushing through certain barriers, certain roadblocks, certain emotional things that keep them from going forward. Right. Yeah. So it's a topic, and the topic is how to get over a breakup and how to heal from heartbreak.
And I think a lot of people go through it, and experience it, but rarely do they talk about it and walk through it and unpack certain things.
Especially us.
Hopefully, that's what we're gonna do, and this should be a really good episode.
Yeah. And a lot of times it's us men that really, we kind of like fight through it, power through it, and I'm all right, I'm internalize it, but and we're not okay, right? Yeah. So let's dive into it.
Let's dive in. It's so many levels to this, but we're gonna go unpack as many levels as we possibly can. But I guarantee you, we're gonna be able to go further and further with this beyond this episode. But let's go. Let's get it. Let's get it.
Heartbreak, breakup. So let's talk about breakup, right? So breakup is traditionally in a relationship. What's up, guys? Thanks for watching the show. I want to take a real quick break and tell you about our community of men where we get together every single day, 24/7 online, and talk about what men go through. Talk about family, fitness, fortitude, finance, everything that has to do with men's health. We got you, all right? You want to get in shape? We got you. You want to have a better mindset? We got you. You want to make money? We got you. So right now the community is online and it's free. Right now it's free. So it won't be for long, but join the conversation right now. Click the link in the description right now and join our community of men who are out there making things happen, all right? We'll see you on that side. Now back to the show. Right, husband and wife, boyfriend, girlfriend. And it can also be two friends, right? Two friends that break up.
Yeah.
And then that breakup leads to heartbreak, right? And the heartbreak can be crippling, right? Because so heartbreak is basically you feel the same emotion as if someone died. The grief is the same, right? Because you're going through so much internally, mentally, physically, spiritually.
Of emotions, yes.
It's a lot going on. So it's the same. And the reason that I've had so much anxiety on these episodes because I went through one. I went through both. Breakup and heartbreak, right? Yeah. And just healing through that really helped me get to the point now where I feel good. I'm happy. My emotions are good.
You're in the gym before me.
I'm in the gym before you, right?
I'm catching that. I see it.
Right. So that's a big part of it too, right? Yeah. Just getting in places where you feel good.
Yeah,
right?
Exactly.
And I won't go into super details on. I mean, that'd be for like a different podcast because that can be a whole season right there, right?
That's a whole
season. But I went through a 20-year marriage, right? I was in 20 years,
2 decades.
2 decades. Had kids. Was in love, and it ended, right? Yeah. It ended, and it's amazing how you don't get married to get a divorce, but it's amazing how you think about that afterwards, right? It's like, oh wow, you know what? I didn't get married to get a divorce, right? I didn't kill this person to have it end, but things happen, right? Things happen, and the why right now is not important. But the thing is that when that ended, because I gave 2 decades, she gave 2 decades,
Right.
and for the end, there was some heartbreak there,
It
right?
should be. Yeah. There was a lot of. You think about what you do in 2 decades. Think
Yeah,
about how many president
right.
how many presidents did you guys see? How many Olympics did you guys see? It's 20 years is a long time when you break it down.
Yeah,
And so you should have some type of emotional
yeah,
attachment when
yeah,
things are severed. So um, it's normal. It hurts. It's not something I wish on anybody,
right. Yeah,
but it is natural.
yeah,
It is if I'm with somebody for 20 years and we completely sever ties and I don't feel any emotional connection or any emotional,
yeah. Something wrong.
there's something wrong with
Yeah,
me.
yeah,
Yeah, so
yeah,
I may be a sociopath or something,
yeah,
but
yeah.
I'm not. But yeah,
Yeah,
it's
and
crazy.
and it doesn't matter how traumatic or how toxic or how whatever the relationship was. The fact that it's breaking up,
Yeah.
it's something that's going to affect you, right?
Hmm.
If you're if you're human, right?
I mean,
So
yeah, yeah.
so
Said
on
if you're human.
yeah, if a heart of conscience, right? So in this one, I'm a really need you to, ask the questions, right?
Okay.
And they can be tough questions, and
Okay.
if I'm uncomfortable with the questions,
I'm
I'll
uncomfortable.
I'll push it off, or I may answer it.
Okay.
But I just think it's time for
Healing.
healing, and this platform provides a space for me. Like I tell you all the time, like, this is my therapy, right? A part of my
Hmm.
therapy, right? And we'll talk about heartbreak and then talk about breakup, because they can be separate, but they can be the same, right?
Right. Right.
Um, so
I think some of the biggest difference between heartbreak and breakup is if you think about it, you can be together with someone and still be heartbroken.
hey man,
You
you
know,
could, yep,
so I could still be in a relationship and my heart could be just broken
right,
because the person I'm with is not meeting my mental
yeah, that's
needs, my
good, yeah,
physical needs, my emotional
yeah,
needs. But that's the only option I know.
yeah,
That's the only person I know, and I don't. People are scared of the unknown,
yeah,
so you stick to what you know. It makes it easier, especially if you have assets together
yeah,
and things of that nature. So you can live in a relationship and be
mm,
heartbroken.
mm,
But when you combine heartbreak with a breakup,
yeah,
now you're talking multiple levels of
2 piece,
hurt.
pop, pop,
Yeah,
yeah,
no biscuit.
no bit,
You're just getting a cold two
right,
piece,
right,
but you have multiple levels of hurt. There's
right,
multiple levels of guilt. There's multiple levels of asking yourself why, even though we say the why isn't important. And
right,
that's my favorite.
right,
But I agree with you. The why is not important in
yeah,
that matter.
yeah,
The fact of the matter is where you are right now.
right,
How you got there, 9 times out of 10, it does matter. I will never
yeah,
say it does not matter because I love to find out the why. But for the sake of this conversation, it is not the biggest hurdle that you got to get over right now. You got to have to get over and finding yourself, finding, you may have lost a bit of yourself. You may
yeah,
have lost a bit of your discipline over the past 20 years.
yeah,
So getting back to that, that's a
yeah,
process,
yeah,
so, but I will say this about breakup and heartbreak is you have to get broken all the way down. And I
mm,
always say this to the lowest common denominator so that you can rebuild and grow.
yeah,
You can't build a brand new building on an old rickety foundation.
yeah, yeah,
You can't. So in order for that, you keep the area, you keep
mm, mm,
you,
mm,
but you break yourself down all the way down to the foundation and you rebuild according to your beliefs and according to who you are now. It's shout out to the people in LA who lost their houses, but
yeah,
you got to look at that. They're not going to rebuild their houses over
right,
burnt, broken foundations. They're going to wipe the slate clean, rebuild bigger and better than ever. Hopefully wiser,
yeah,
with protection, certain protections. You learn a lot when you go through certain things. You should, and I guarantee you that the people in LA have learned a lot. They value their life, but they lost a lot.
Right. Right.
They lost a lot. So moving forward, how are they going to adjust? It could be, changing their insurance, or
Yeah.
making their house less debris around their yard or something like that. You learn from traumatic incidents.
Right.
Is the point.
Right.
So for you, I would say, you 20 years, you've learned now what not to do and what to do.
Yeah, I think I learned both.
Yeah.
Right. Yeah,
Yeah.
learn both. And when you're like you said, rebuilding, you referenced the fires in LA. Shout out to them. We're praying for you guys.
Absolutely.
Hopefully everything works out. Everything will work out. But during the fires, during a breakup, you don't think about rebuilding.
No.
Right. You don't think about it in that moment because you're so emotionally ingrained in, trying to figure out what happened, right? Trying to figure out the why, what I did wrong, right? Is there anything that I could have done better? How could I prevent this, right? So that's where I was, and the more that you think about what happened and why and how could I have done things different, or I was the problem, right? The longer it takes for you to get through that breakup, right? Because you're so consumed, because your mind is showing you all kinds of things that may be true, may not be true, but most of it's a lie, right? Because your mind is making up stories on maybe if I would have said this better or done that better or got home at this time or said this,
changing one incident,
one incident, or this hug or whatever, right? It's all that, but people have to remember, it's like when you're going through heartbreak, your mind's not broken, your heart is, right? But your mind is showing you so many things, and you're asking so many questions about what if, what if.
If I would have.
If I would have. But the thing is that there's never one incident, right? There's never one thing.
No.
And also, what makes it hard to get over heartbreak and a breakup is that you constantly thinking about the good times, the good things. You're idolizing that person to a sense, right? But then you have to come back to, what, we broke up for a reason. This ended for a reason. So while you're thinking about the good things, also think about why you broke up, right? And in my situation, the good times would always bring us back together, right? Because 20 years we make up, break up, make up, break up.
Yeah.
But we will always go back to why we broke up, right? Like this is the reason why. But one thing as men, something say?
No,
Okay.
no. I'm.
One thing as men is that even though we know something is not good for us at certain times, we want to fight through it because we don't want to fail, right? We don't want to give up,
Right.
Throw in the towel. So we fight through so many obstacles and adversities, and when it's finally time to go, we're like, you know what? Damn, I failed, right? And it's never about failure. If you're going through a breakup or if you're going through something, it's not about failure. It's about, that lesson you need to learn that season is now over, right? You've learned, and going back to the same thing is really something that you have to look at and say, you know what? How is this serving my life?
And that's where I would say, like, I wouldn't necessarily call it a failure. I would say it was a 20-year learning lesson,
right,
for you,
right,
and for anybody else. It's 20-year learning lesson. Like, if you don't learn from everything that's around you, you never grow.
Yeah,
you never grow, whether it's good or bad. You'll never grow into the person you truly want to be. You'll always have this sense of if I would have done this, then this would have been this way. And you spend all your energy doing that instead of growing, instead of saying, how was I versus how am I?
Right.
Or how do I want to be?
Right.
And then let's just keep it a buck.
Keep it a buck.
We're in California. The ratio is, I'll be modest, say 2 to 1 women to men.
Yeah.
So eventually you're gonna be out there. And if you don't work on yourself, and if you don't have the knowledge of growth, that growth mindset instead of that fixed mindset of you're so focused on the traumas of your past that you carry that shit on your back, and now you bring that into a whole new relationship.
Right. Same thing's gonna happen.
Same thing's gonna happen,
Yep.
and you're gonna double down and say, "Oh, damn, that didn't work. So this didn't work. Okay, I keep moving on." Now you realize there's something toxic there. There's something there, and it really is. We always say you control who's around you. You control who you allow in your space.
Right.
So, but that also the only person who's the first person in your space the first time you open your eyes in the morning. The first person in your space is you.
It's you.
The last person in your space is you. So you got to work on that person first.
Yeah.
You got to work on that person first before you can even remotely think outwardly. Because once a relationship is over, that's over meaning final. It's final. That means it's done. It's done. So now the relationship has one or two things, especially when you have assets and kids. If relationship turns into one or two things: final, completely done, I don't want anything to do with you, or we learn how to be civil for the sake of our kids, and we learn how to. They say co-parent, but I like the word to be more of a communicative. You can co-parent and not. I don't have to like you and be a good co-parent. I don't have to speak to you, but 20 years, there's a certain level of respect that has to be there. That it should be there. Where I'm gonna communicate. I can still communicate with you. I know this part of our relationship is completely over. Completely over. It was not good for you, and it wasn't good for me for whatever reason.
Right.
But we got these kids who didn't ask to be here.
Right.
We cannot show them toxic behavior.
Right.
Because especially girls, boys, you got both. So your girls are looking at you and they're saying, okay, how is a man? We're looking at you for two reasons.
Yeah.
How is a husband supposed to treat a wife?
Right.
How is my husband supposed to treat me first? Okay, stuff doesn't work out. How is now that relationship? What does that relationship look like?
Yeah.
Is it shut off completely? I don't talk to you. You don't talk to me. That's not healthy, depending on the situation.
Yeah.
Or is it, okay, we have these kids together. Let's be at least civil, at least around them.
Yeah.
You know, so that they see it. And then what happens is you're carrying toxic crap on yourself. And then when you let go and release that toxic behavior, now your kids don't pick it up.
Yeah.
You know, you will start eliminating those generational curses because if they see it, they carry that on to their relationship. Yeah. And if it was fine for my mom and my dad, it's got to be fine for me.
Yeah.
You know, it's normal. I'm used to that. You know, and it goes on to their kids and their kids.
Right.
So that's how you create generational curses. So, but that's how you also eliminate them is you nip it in the bud, you cut it off at the root, and you grow and you become, in essence, more mature because now you have to learn to communicate with a person and be civil around a person who for 20 years you were together and now there's not. You got to navigate back to being civil.
Yeah.
And I think it just comes from having a foundation of what's the foundation of your relationship. You know, every you should have a healthy foundation. We keep going back to these fires, but you know, if some houses burn down, if the roof burned down, okay, but the foundation is still strong, you don't necessarily have to tear the whole house down.
Right.
You may have to tear the roof down, you may have to tear the first story down, but the foundation is strong enough for you to still build on. So it's about your foundation. It's about making sure that moving forward, what kind of foundation do you want to set? What kind of foundation do you want to have in your relationship? So I'm a firm believer in just working from the bottom up, because if you just, you know, you see nice hair, you see nice body, and you go immediately to that as a long-term relationship, that shit's not gonna last.
Yeah.
Body's gonna fade.
Right.
Hair falls out.
Right.
what do you have after that? You know, so you have to really figure out what kind of foundation you want to have in your next relationships moving forward. That's what I believe that.
Yeah, and excuse me, took over everything. Cough. Excuse me.
It's in the air.
Right, it's in the air. So your foundation is very, very important, right? We learn things as we go along. Well, hopefully we learn things, right? I am so grateful for the time I spent in that marriage because it taught me so much. It made me who I am today. Because I tell people all the time, like, if I didn't go through that, I wouldn't be sitting here on this couch right now, doing what I'm doing. Because it shows and exposes so much. Like, it really exposed me for who I was, right? It exposed me for who I wasn't. You know, it exposed my traumas. You know, it exposed my triggers. It exposed so much. And going through the journey of doing my best to change who I was or fix me or not fix me, but become a better man, that played a major role in the separation because my therapist told me, he said, well, you're not the same person that she fell in love with 20 years ago, right? You're different, right? And that kind of shocked me because, like, wow, you know, I thought that as time goes by, as people get older, we get better and we become more solid, right? But it takes two, right? You know, two people have to be on the same page, whether you're staying down there, you're going mid-level, or you're elevating, right? You guys have to be on the same page, and it's okay to have little gaps here and there.
Yeah, at least be in the same chapter,
right? Exactly, right. But if I'm in chapter 10 and you're in chapter 1, then there's going to be this major breakdown in like what we're doing, right? And also during a breakup, we have the tendency to blame the other person for the breakup. Well,
that's what I was going to ask.
If she didn't, if he didn't, if they didn't, yeah, they may have been acting according to, you know, their pain, their trauma, who they were, but so were you, right? It's like we have to be accountable for the role we play in the breakup. We have to be accountable for the trauma as well, right?
Exactly.
Because there's always two people, right? And no matter what one person does, there's always two people.
It's always
right?
two people.
So I got caught up in that too. You know, I got caught up in like, you know what, this is what, you know, she did. And it was like, yeah, maybe, right? But what role did you play, right? And I tell people all the time is that, you know what, we grew up with our parents, our grandparents, whatever, you know, we were once kids, and growing up as kids, there are some traumas that are developed there, right? There are some puddles that are formed, right? And I say, you know what, you know, we don't create puddles. Sometimes as adults, we go and step in them,
right?
And then that triggers the other person, right? It's like, you know, I didn't pour your puddle, but I may have stepped in that mug, right? So that's what we do. And me as a man, right? When you're up against, you know, someone, up against some negativity, up against a wall, you have four responses, right? You have fight, flight, freeze, fawn, right? Your boy's a fighter, right? I'm like, you know, well, okay, you know, let's go, right?
Right.
You know, tit for tat, and
petty,
right? You know, but I can look back and I can see that now, right?
Right.
I can see that. You know what? Let me look at myself and see where I was. And see, like, you know, what my role is. Like, I can't be responsible for anyone else's actions but mine, right?
Right.
And one day we'll go into what happened at Walmart, right? One day we will, right? Because that
always Walmart,
right? That was a pivotal point for me in my life, right? You know,
Walmart was a straw.
Walmart was a defining moment, you know, more in the straw. You know, I've had several straws, but that day defined my whole life, and that day changed everything for me.
You wanna unpack that one?
Not right now.
Okay,
no, not right now.
Got it.
But
Walmart.
In the future we will, right?
Okay.
In the future we will as we go through this. But the biggest thing is that when you're going through heartbreak, you got to realize one thing you have to do in a breakup. You have to come to the conclusion and come to and recognize and accept that it's over.
Hmm.
In the beginning, that was hard for me, right? Because I can go back, you can dip back, let me call and make sure everything's cool, or I got a text or email, and this email say, it's safe now,
Right.
to come
Right.
back. But
Coast is clear.
coast is clear, right? But that was my excuse me, that was my own toxicity, right?
Hmm.
That was my own trauma, right?
Right.
Because we all go through these things where we want validation and value and acceptance from our partner. We do.
Absolutely.
We
Yep.
want that, and we should, right? We
Hmm.
we should get that. But sometimes we have to leave the person we care about to find someone that cares about us, right? And
I
I
agree with
say
that.
the first person that should care about you is you, right?
Nobody's gonna care about you more
No,
than you.
no. So you be the first one to care about you, and then you start attracting these people into your life that can give you the edification that you desire, right? Because we all want it, right?
Right.
But one important factor, one important point in getting over a breakup and heartbreak is accepting the fact that this is what it is, right?
Yeah.
I can't go back. I'm not going back. And if I go back, this is what's going to happen. Because at this time, you're the same people. So why do you think going back is going to make anything change, right? It's an unhealthy attachment,
It's a clear definition of insanity.
right? It's a healthy. It's
It,
a, go ahead.
it is definitely like, you know, we got to look at ourselves. Like the only person that we can control and the only person that we can effectively work on is ourselves. We cannot control the actions or reactions of other people. So yeah, when stuff happens and there's a breakup involved, it's natural to be like, if well, I only did this because you did this, or
Right.
if you wouldn't have done this, I
Right.
would have never done that.
Right.
So if you listen to that, how that sounds is my reactions and my how I am is based on another person, an
Right.
external source.
But that's real though. That
It
happens.
happens.
It happened to me.
It happens. But I think that we have to like it happens. So let's just say for 90% of the people that go through breakups,
Hmm.
that happens.
Right.
The difference between the 90% and the 10% that automatically thinks the other way is they thought the same way the 90% did, they just didn't stay in it that long.
Right.
So
Right.
they eventually they're like, you know what, it's over. However, I had a part to play in that.
Right.
So let me examine and unpack that for my future me.
Right.
Because my future me, whether it's with somebody or not, has got to move on. That
Right.
future me has to thrive.
Right.
That future me has kids that are looking at me. That future me has a future that is unknown.
Yeah.
But again, it's what you make it.
Yeah.
So how do you want that future you? What would you tell your future you if your future you saw you? That's a good question. So what would you tell 3 months ago, Anthony? What would you tell him now?
I would tell him now that fear is okay, right? And I would tell him, I would say, Anthony, fear doesn't stop death. Fear stops life,
Uh-huh.
right? You're so heartbroken. You're so much in fear because you're afraid of the unknown. You're afraid of detaching.
Mhm.
You're afraid of living a life that you're destined for, right? Just because you're in fear, that doesn't mean that you're going to stop death, right? It stops you living right now, right?
Right.
So everything that you want, it's not going to come to pass because you're so afraid of the unknown.
Mhm.
So I would tell him that fear is okay. I I would tell him that right now I'm on the other side, right? It's
Mhm.
years later, and I'm here, and I see you. I see what you're going through. I
Mhm.
see the pain. I see the emotion. I see the agony. I see it, but it's going to be okay. And I know that. I know that because I'm here, and I know what you're going through is because while you're in it, you can't see it,
Right.
right? While you're in it, it's like, oh my God, I can't see it. But as soon as you come out of it, it's like, wow, this is what life is supposed to be, right? And even though you're still learning, and just because you break up with someone or have heartbreak does not mean you stop caring about that person, right?
Right.
It's a different care, it's a different love,
Right.
it's a different respect, but you have to at some point start to focus on you and how am I going to get myself to that next level, right? Because yes, you're in the unknown, but the unknown is so fucking amazing because you can create what you want in the
It's
unknown,
what you create. Exactly.
right?
Yep. I agree. I completely agree with that. I think we get so caught up in the actual pitfall of the pain
Mm.
that when someone speaks to us, we don't necessarily. So, we go through different things. So let's just take for granted 2021. We went over this already.
Yeah.
But 2021 lost both my parents, and someone spoke to me, and it was basically, in a nutshell, what they told me was, "Don't worry, time will heal all wounds
Yeah.
over time."
Yeah.
I didn't want to hear that shit at that particular
Yeah.
time. I'm like, no, I'm hurting now. I'm
Mhm.
feeling this way now.
Mhm.
I don't want to hear about what time is going to do, however long that's going to take. I don't want to hear that. That was my mentality while I was in it. But now, and when I'm speaking to people and I tell them who going through stuff, and I'm like, you're going to have to give it time. You're
Yeah.
going to have to, I know you don't want to hear it right now.
Right.
I know this is not what you want to hear because you're hurting right
Right.
now.
Right.
But just because you don't want to hear it, don't shut it down.
Right.
Give it time. And I may not have been in your shoes, but I have been hurt and I have
I've
been
had heartbreak.
heartbroken.
Yeah. Right.
So I know that with time, it gets better. Does it get easy? It gets a little easier, but you still have pockets.
Mhm.
But you know that with time, those pockets are few and far
Mhm.
between. They're not so back to back to back to back.
Right.
So when you're giving it time, you're giving yourself time and room to grow, no matter how painful it might be. When you plant a seed in the ground, you think about this. When you plant a seed in the ground, you put that seed a couple of inches in the dirt under. You don't see
Yeah.
it. Once you
Yeah.
plant it, you cover it up,
Yeah.
and then you water it, you nurture it, and
Yeah.
you're praying and hoping that what you're doing is allowing that seed to thrive and to grow. Well, when a seed is growing, it's got to break through the soil.
Yeah.
It's got to come through. You don't see
Yeah.
anything until it breaks through. And I think that's the hardest thing. That is the hardest thing for a lot of us, is that it's that breakthrough. It's that going from here and coming through that soil and breaking through that soil. That's the hurtful part. Once we break through that soil and the sunlight hits us, and the sunlight is nourishing us. I'm not going to say what it provides, that vitamin, but it gives us a
Vitamin
certain vitamin.
D.
It gives us a certain vitamin that we
I said it
need.
for you. I said
I
it for you.
appreciate
said
it.
for
I
you.
appreciate
I
it.
got you.
But we have that nutrients, and then once you get up there, you're thriving. The sun is beating on you. You never. I don't think a full bloom rose thinks about being underground as a seed under
Yeah.
in the soil,
Yeah.
because it's too busy thriving. I'm a rose. Like, I smell good. I look good. This is me. I'm
Yeah.
not the same seed I was before.
Yeah.
So, but that takes time. You have to break stuff down in order for yourself to grow. That's what I told myself. That's what I tell a lot of people is it's if it don't hurt, you're not growing. Like,
Yeah.
when you go to the gym, if we not sore and hurting,
Right.
we didn't work out.
Yeah.
We just went up there and bullshit around.
The breakthrough is very painful, right?
Mhm.
Because when you're going through the breakup and you're going through the heartbreak, you want to cope, hide the pain, mask the pain, and not numb the pain. And one thing that people talk about that and I experience is that when you're going through a breakup and heartbreak, there's so much loneliness, right? And that loneliness, you crave going back, you crave that closeness, that conversation, you crave the intimacy, right?
Mhm.
And one of the hardest things that I had to do was to sit in that loneliness and just feel every single emotion, right?
Mhm.
If you don't feel it, you can't heal it, right?
Right.
Sit there and just listen to myself, talk to myself, and and tell myself things that I had to uplift myself, but I had to sit in that pain, that loneliness, that hurt. I had to go through it because if once you're through it, you're through it. Once the seed breaks through the dirt, it's done,
It's
right?
done.
But
Don't go back.
don't go back, right? It's like it's because when I find this out, what, it's over, I'm done. That that was big for me, right?
Mhm.
But there's something beautiful about sitting in loneliness and sitting through pain and sitting through grief and letting that stuff like go through your body, go through your veins,
Mhm.
and you feel it, and wow, it wasn't that bad, right? It hurt, but it wasn't
I'm
that
still
bad.
here.
I'm still here, but there's something amazingly beautiful about that.
And you know what? One thing I will say, and I'll say this while we're shooting right now, is isolation is not good for anybody. But I will say I will commend you because while you were isolating, you didn't isolate yourself to the point where we didn't miss too many meetings.
Right.
We talked through a lot of stuff.
Right.
So I I commend you because you went and are going through something that I've never went through.
Right.
Yet we opened up and we had conversations about the situation that I believe helped both of us
Right.
in that situation.
Right.
So for those that are listening, if you're going through something and you think no one understands, and so you isolate yourself, that's not wise. Because when you isolate yourself 100% from everybody, I get it at times. At times, you might need to isolate because I'm known for that. I will disappear in a minute, just for a second, but I will resurface. But for those that never resurface and they just isolate, there's nothing good that can come from that because all you're doing is you are sitting in a space by yourself, allowing this narrative in your head to play over and over and over again, and then it grows and grows and grows to this monster that now you don't even know where to start to tackle it.
Mm.
It just grows into this huge monster, and then that's when shit happens.
Right.
So I would tell anybody that's listening, don't completely isolate yourself. There are outlets for you to talk to. There are outlets. We have an outlet
Right.
for for men, but we have outlets for anything and everything that you go through. So don't feel that what you're going through, you're the only one going through it,
Yeah.
and you're alone because you're not. Take it from us. When we feel certain stuff, 10 times out of 10, we go to each other. It
Yeah.
may be a week later, it may be 3 days later, but the point is we eventually go to each other to get that stuff off of our chest because we know we can't
Yeah.
isolate.
Yeah.
So it's not healthy for us to isolate because shit happens,
Yeah.
you know?
Let me yeah, that's true, and I also want to clarify like my position, right, on
Mhm.
where I was. Clarify something is that just because you're lonely doesn't mean you're alone,
Correct.
right? And one thing, like when I said, I was lonely, it was missing the family,
Family.
missing the marriage, missing the connection I thought I had,
Mhm.
right? So when you're going through something and you're lonely, that loneliness tends to have you going back to what's not good for you,
Right.
right?
Yeah.
And that's something that I had to do different, right? Even though I'm lonely, I'm missing this connection I thought I had, but I can't run back to something that was not good for me, right? When you're with someone for a long time and you guys separate, um, it's the same dopamine hit as someone who wants drugs, right? You get that same high,
Right.
right?
Yep.
And it's something that's hard to break, but it's something that can be broken, and it's all up to you healing, and making sure that you see yourself because I went through years of people telling me, what a great guy I was, right?
Right.
You're this. It's like, but I didn't see that. I didn't
Right.
feel that, right?
Mhm.
So when you start to believe in believe in yourself the way other people do, that's when your life changes. When you start to see how your life is elevating and you're doing better things and bigger things, and it's not that you didn't want to do that with that person, it's that you spend so much energy trying to prove to someone that I'm not who you think I am, right? I'm not this guy, I'm not this girl, right? But when you remove yourself from that energy, you can use that to be productive and be creative.
You have to
right?
shift your focus.
You gotta shift your focus.
Yep.
And a lot of times going through a breakup, we focus on what could have been. We
Right.
focus on the pain. We focus on the misery. We focus on all of that. And that's cool, but just know that what you focus on expands. What you focus on becomes your reality. What you focus on becomes you.
Right.
Right. So we have to choose our focus. And I'm saying it like it's easy, and it's not.
It's not.
Right?
Yeah, it's not.
I was with someone for 20 years. So
I keep saying 2
right,
decades.
2 decades.
That's
So
a long time.
and there are people who are together for more. I was watching some video. She said, yeah, we broke up after 34 years. That's tough.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
But it can be done.
It can be done.
When you're in it, you can't see your life beyond that person. You can't see your life without that person. It's like it's just fucking impossible.
Right.
I can't do this.
Right. You spend 20 years with them.
Right.
You spent 20 years in a life. Like, there's no way that you can think, oh, I'm just gonna jump. I'm just gonna go jump. I'm good. I
Yeah.
can do this. I can do that. Nah, it doesn't happen like that.
Yeah.
You put somebody in prison for 20 years and tell them to put them in the free world, and
Yeah.
you see how that happens.
Yeah.
It takes process, which is why they have checks and balances in order for those people, so that when they get out, they stay out.
Right.
So it's just about knowing that it's gonna be difficult. It's not gonna be easy.
Yeah.
But so people always say, well, if I knew what I then knowledge is not power. It is the application of
Right.
knowledge. You knowing what's good and what's bad for you is great, but if you constantly go back to it, you're not
Yeah.
applying the knowledge.
Yeah.
You're just you know it's bad,
Yeah.
but you still go back and forth. So, I remember us having this conversation, and not to go into too many details, but I gave you the option. You can go back.
Right.
You can go back.
Right.
You don't have to go through this.
Right.
You can go back
Right.
to your situation.
Right.
But just know what comes with it.
Right.
And if that works for you,
Right. Go for it.
go for it.
Right.
But if you know that it's detrimental to your health, you know that it's detrimental to everything, your core values,
Yeah.
it's detrimental to you as a man, you know that it's not. Why would you go back? Like, I don't understand. I don't understand why people, if you know it's bad for you, why do it?
Fear is a mother, bro.
I get it.
Fear,
I get it.
fear is something that will have you doing things that you don't understand sometimes, right? Men. A lot of men will not admit it, but we get scared.
Oh,
we get fearful.
I have no problem saying I'm scared of something.
Right. Well, now, yeah,
terrified. I'm
right.
scared of a lot of shit.
Now, but but most men in general, we mask that fear.
Yeah.
I'm all right. I'm cool. Or we do other things to act out that fear. Right. I had so much fear. So much fear in the man that I was. The father I was, the businessman I was, the husband I was. Just me being fearful. And I say this is that you have to be at a point where you do so much work is in that you're okay in expressing how you feel, expressing your fear, expressing your vulnerability, no matter how the other person perceives it or receives it, right? You're expressing that because it's who you are now, right? But when you're in fear, you can't see any other thing other than loss. If I do this, I'm going to lose. If I do this, I'm a failure. If I do this, I'm not a man. If I do this, you make up all these things in your head of what's going to go wrong if you do this. The biggest thing for me was like, I'm going to lose, right? I'm going to lose. And despite everybody around me saying, hey, Anthony, you have to see things for what they are, I couldn't see it.
Right.
Right? I couldn't see it.
Why do you think you couldn't see it at the time?
Because I was deep in it. I was like deep in my shit. And I'm like, you know what? If I do this, it will work. If because I replayed every. It's crazy how I remember virtually 99% of all the breakdowns we had, right? And I'm like, well, what if I would have did this? What if I would have did that, or said this, or said that? And I try I try to make up or justify things going bad, right? Thinking that, I could, what, maybe that was my fault, or maybe I should have did this, but that's bullshit, right? That's sort of bullshit because you can't control someone else's reactions,
Right.
or responses. You can't,
Nope.
right? But the fear, I had so much fear around what I was losing versus what I was gaining, right? The fear of loss overweighed the opportunity to gain, right? And not knowing that I would gain so much, right? And then reversing it, looking at where she is, she's elevated, right? She's doing better. Got her own car, got her own place, her own finances. So it's like, okay, it's real good. So I had to my decision, our decision to break up benefit us both, right?
Yep.
And that's the best thing for our kids, right?
Did you ever, being in that situation, in that marriage, and feeling the way you felt, did you feel like you had to overcompensate as a father because you knew your kids were watching?
100%.
Okay.
I was doing that before I even got married, right? Because I had that father void, right? My dad was gone, so I'm like, you know what? I don't know how to be a father, so I'm gonna overcompensate. But even get into that marriage, yeah, I definitely overcompensated in so many ways, because I'm like, you know what? Damn, they just saw this happen, or heard this. Now I gotta do 4 or 5 times more things to like really show them that, you know what, this is who I am. But all of that was just me and my own crap, because your kids are gonna love you no matter what. Right. They are. And the shit that we make up in our minds on who we are, what happened is mind boggling, right?
Yep.
We make up so much stuff, and we are storytelling machines, right? We make stories about every single thing. But just coming to the realization that where I was something. And I'm gonna say this with complete conviction, would have killed me, right? Because of the choices that I made, right? No one can force you to do anything. And there's a quote by Gandhi that says, no one can hurt me without my permission, right? If I don't give permission, you can't hurt me,
Right.
and if I choose to stay in a spot for so long because I have fear, then that's a choice that I made.
That's a you choice.
That's a me choice.
Yep.
And I had to stop putting the blame on the other party, and also recognize that, what you did was kind of messed up. Knowing that, but knowing that you did that because I allowed you to do that, right?
Something you always tell me, and I swear I use it, and I think about it every time I get pissed off when I'm in public. You can't control how people talk to you.
Right.
You can only control your reaction to them.
Right.
So I literally keep that in the back of my head every time. I'm like, you know what?
Right.
I'm gonna react in a wise manner. I'm not going to let it get to me, because I'm not gonna let an external source control my emotions. It happens.
Right.
It happens, whether, it happens on the basketball court. But it happens.
It does.
It happens in life. And, You know, but you still have to be conscious and intentional on not allowing people to provoke you
Right.
because you don't know what that person, you know, I look at it like this. Um, Damn, do I want to tell the story?
Sure. Tell a story.
So there was a time where I was going to college. I was in college and I was almost late for class.
Okay.
And I had to stop and get some gas. It was crowded. Gas station was crowded. And car jumps in front of me.
Mm-hmm.
Takes takes the takes the gas pump that I was about to grab. So I'm hot. I get out the car. I'm yelling all kind of expletives to this young guy. Now I think I'm a freshman or a sophomore in college. This kid may have been in high school.
Yeah. Oh yeah.
But he had his friend. He had a friend with it. It was two of them.
Yeah.
And I'm talking reckless to him at the pump. He's talking reckless to me. If I start at a 7, he goes to an 8, and I automatically jump to 10 to the third.
Mm-hmm.
So I put hands on this kid, like at the
wow.
pump. I put hands on this kid, and I'm literally got my hands around his throat, and I'm watching his eyes go to the back of his head.
Oh wow.
I immediately let him go and realized this is just gas. I let him go, went down the street, got my gas, went to class, thought about it the entire day in class.
Mm-hmm.
But I say that to say something like that wouldn't happen to me now because my thought process is different. I'm thinking about that person has a family.
Right.
That person is somebody's son.
Right.
Somebody, it may be a father.
Mm-hmm.
You know, he's somebody to somebody.
Right.
And me doing this to him is not going to affect him, but it's going to affect his family.
Right.
So my perspective changed as I got older. So anger is still there. Do I get angry? Yeah, but I just channel it differently.
Yeah.
You have to grow and you have to know yourself, who you are. Because 18, 19-year-old me, bro, could never complete a basketball game because I got teed up, or you know, I was just mad. And reflecting on that, I was mad at, you know.
So I know you're enjoying the podcast, but I want to stop real quick and tell you about Barron's book, The Bro Code of Confidence. Now, men need confidence. Men need resilience. Men need to have a sense of purpose, but we don't always have that, right? We sometimes get stuck in figuring out who we are and what we need to do. The Bro Code is the perfect book to get you unstuck, to make things simpler so we can gain confidence and be resilient. Get the Bro Code, click the link in the description, get the Bro Code. Now back to the show.
Pops in and out, you know, just angry. Yeah. I didn't have that constant male figure. He was there, but he wasn't there. Yeah. So I didn't have that male figure at my games to say, hey, what the fuck are you doing? Right. Calm down. Right. It's just a game. Right. I didn't have that. I went off pure emotion. And now, no, I have to, I bring it back. And the older I got, the closer we got. So I got perspective, and I was able to, and more importantly, I got perspective from my patriarch, but also our kids are looking at us.
Yeah, right.
You know,
right.
And these times, if you do that now, these kids ain't you ain't choking nobody out. Right. They shooting. So, you know, I didn't think about that at the time. I'm like, you call. I'm late. Yeah. That's all I'm thinking of. I'm late for class, and I'm trying to get to class, and I need gas. And yeah, that's as far as my mind would go. That's as far as it would go. It didn't take me further than that. But we have to learn that we go through things and we grow for a reason. We have to go through it to go through it. You have to go through it, you know, to see the other side of it. Right. And hopefully you're grown and you won't repeat the same, you know, pitfalls, because we all fall. We all make mistakes. We all do shit we wish we didn't do, whether we are 18 or 48 or 58. We all do shit we wish we could take back.
Right.
But the thing is did you learn? Did you learn? Did you really learn from that situation? And are you a better person because you went through it?
Right.
And I think you are a better person by going through this.
Yeah.
I told you this last week. I said, bro, I was amazed, not even amazed, but I was pleased to see how respectful and how well managed your children were.
Yeah.
You know, they seem like, and I could be completely wrong. You let me know if I'm wrong. They seem like they are true brother and sister, and
Yeah.
they support each other. And if you mess with one, you mess with the other. If you get this one, you gonna get that one.
Yeah.
And I love to see kids, especially in this time, they're respectful, and you can be like, okay, they got good parents. They got good,
Yeah.
okay.
Yeah.
Because any other time I see kids, I'm like, who raised y'all?
Yeah.
Who raised you? And sometimes you feel old, I'm like, don't be cussing around me, because we couldn't cuss around adults.
Nah, not at all.
And you get these kids that's cussing around. I'm like, watch your mouth. I just said that at Sean's game. Kids was cussing. Watch your mouth. You got adults around here. Don't do that. You're not going to cuss in front of your parents. Don't cuss in front of us. So, but yeah, I needed to let you know that you guys, the relationship may not have worked out, but you guys should be proud of the kids that you guys raised, because the world sees them, as respectful kids. So those are assets that you guys have. So be very proud of that.
Yeah.
Both of you guys had a hand in it.
Right.
So that's something that you guys should. That's one thing that you guys should respect about each other.
Right. Yeah. Yeah.
And
yeah,
that'll be good.
Yeah. I would say, well, first of all, thank you for that.
Absolutely.
Because how they grow up and their experience in life is like very, very important, right? And everything that they've experienced and seen and has gone through, one, it shaped them into who they are. Two, is going to further shape them, as they go through life and as they experience different things, and knowing that even though things didn't work out, they're still great kids, right? Yeah. They're great kids, except when they're behind closed doors fighting each other, right?
That's different,
right?
They can fight each other.
Exactly.
The streets ain't gonna fight none.
Nah.
What we do behind closed doors is behind closed doors.
Yeah. So me looking at that and me looking at who they are, I am proud of the job that we did, despite some of the scenarios or comments or things that were said that didn't turn out. Mm-hmm. The kids are really our pride and joy, and it's something that is asset that we created. Yep. And going through this process and looking back at everything that happened, they went through their own heartbreak as well too, right? Because they had to go through this in a sense with us. And I tell people, like, it doesn't matter if the person that you're with is the worst person on earth. You shouldn't be with them. You know what? I have to divorce this person. Mm-hmm. No matter what, divorce is still hard. Yeah, that process is hard, and we make it harder. Us amazing human beings, we make it harder. But knowing that also the kids are going through it as well too, right? So like, going through a breakup and healing from a breakup is something that you have to really take your time and do. You have to really sit in your emotions and really figure out, what you want out of life. You have to understand that your mind is going to lie to you. Your mind's going to play tricks on you. Your mind's going to tell you that you need to go back and do certain things. And, it wasn't that bad. And look at all the good times you guys had. You have to really sit and go through it and realize that, if I go through this pain this one time, I will never go through it again. But if I keep going back, I will keep going back through the same pain over and over again for the rest of my life, right? So recognize and ask yourself, like, what do I want? What do I want out of life? If you're content in where you are, go back, where you at, yep. Right? But if you want something greater, then you have to, in a sense, but you have to go through the pain, go through the emotion, go through the loneliness, and go through the change, because your life is now different. Your life is now changed, but that can be a change for the better, or you can stay where you are, or it can be worse. Right. But you have to recognize, again, it's like, Your mind is going to play tricks on you, but your mind's not broken. Your heart is. Go into your heart. Figure out what I got to change in my heart, or fixing my heart, healing my heart, because your mind's always going to try and protect you, right? Always.
I think that's a good point. Yep. Heart, separate the heart from the mind.
Right.
Because the mind is going to play tricks on you. It's going to tell you things that who you are, but you're not really that person.
Right.
The things that you did, you didn't really do it that. You didn't really do it like that. It was your mind telling you, well, you played it in the scenario, you did it this way.
Right.
And which is why she did it this way.
Right.
Maybe if you wouldn't have done that, she probably wouldn't have done that. The key
Right.
words are maybe and probably.
Maybe and probably, right.
Who knows? I want definites. I want facts. That's not a fact. The fact of the matter is you spent 20 years in a relationship, had beautiful kids, and just it didn't work out. You know, it didn't work out. The sad thing, and it's the coldest thing to say, but it's sad. Everybody is not meant to be in your life for the rest of your life.
Right.
And sometimes they were there for a specific level of your life, and now for some reason, the next level does not include them.
They're there for a lesson.
That's
You
it.
recognize the lesson
Just,
or not.
you learn. You don't lose. You learn.
Right.
So you should have learned. You learn what lesson that you were in, and so now the next question is, what's next?
Right.
What's next? And we're almost about to wrap this up, but that's the question I want to ask for you. How do you see? What's the future? How do you see your future now? Moving on.
So I see my future as very exciting. Lots of growth, lots of hellos, lots of new amazing experiences, right? Because I'm about to be in the second half of my life, right? And the second half of my life it's going to be truly amazing, right? I see myself fostering amazing relationships as far as business, personal, our podcast, our brand, our community, and just me growing better as a man, right? And going through that experience, going through that relationship, it made me who I am today.
It's a part of it. Yeah.
It's a part of me.
Yep.
And I tell people now is that you will get through it. It will be okay. Yes, you will still think about things here and there,
Of course.
but you will be okay. So next is just to keep putting one foot in front of the other. Forward progress only.
Right.
That's where I am. Normally looking back, and acceptance is a mother, boy. Once you accept something for what it is, it frees you up. Right.
Yep.
I was talking to my mom today, and she was saying, you know what, you just seem so happy now. I'm like, yeah, I am. I didn't think I would get to this point, right? But I am. So that's what's next for me.
That's amazing. Like I said, this could go on for a whole nother hour.
Right.
But we gonna spare y'all ears.
Yeah.
But yeah,
We good?
Yeah, we're good. I think we tapped into enough. I think we've given the people enough.
Yeah. Hopefully
insight.
It helped. Yeah.
Hopefully it helps. Hopefully somebody is dealing with similar issues realize that I got to start looking at myself and not the whole external part of my problem. I need to look internally and fix that,
right,
and then work that way out. So
right.
So I'm ready for whatever's next in my life. So I'm excited for you. I'm happy to see that you are in the gym before me.
Yep.
And what time are we going to the gym tomorrow?
I'll be there at 8:15 tomorrow. You probably just ain't going to sleep like 3 hours before, but anyway. But we'll talk about that later on. But all right, guys, thank you for watching the Truth About Him podcast, number one podcast for men's health and wellness. Please share, please like, please subscribe, please comment if you have any questions. We would love to talk to you guys. But until then, we'll see you next episode. Peace.